I thought moving to my grandfather's isolated cabin in Trapper Creek, Alaska would give me peace. It was Christmas, and the snow-covered woods promised silence. But that silence was a lie. Every night, like a clock counting down to terror, it started at precisely 1:17 a.m. It wasn't a song, but a broken, off-key whistle, a sound that began in the deep, dark woods and crept closer every night until it was right outside my door. The horror didn't stop there. It broke the final barrier, coming from under my floorboards, then from the hallway inside my house. I found out this wasn't just for me. The Christmas whistler had been haunting my family for decades, always returning for the holidays. On Christmas Eve, the whistling stopped. It was replaced by 3 slow, deliberate knocks from the kitchen. I faced a pale figure in the dark of my own home and fired my shotgun, driving the thing back into the snow. But the most terrifying part? The next morning, the back door wasn't broken. It was simply unlocked. Dear viewers, tell us where you are watching from in the comments below. We want to know which state you are in so we can upload a terrifying story about your area next. My name is Jake. I am 28 years old. My life was a mess because of my divorce. I had no good place to go, so I moved to the only place I still had, my grandfather's old house. It was in Trapper Creek, a small, quiet town in Alaska. I planned to stay for a while to get my head straight. The house was 10 minutes outside of town. It sat on 10 acres of land surrounded by thick, silent woods. It was early December. The town of Trapper Creek was already ready for Christmas. When I drove through, I saw bright lights on every house. A big Christmas tree stood in the town square. But out here in the woods, it was only quiet. No cars, no people, just the sound of the wind in the trees and the call of an owl. I thought this quiet would help me feel better. It was 1 week before Christmas Eve when I heard something scary. I was in bed, trying to read around midnight, when I heard it. A whistle. It was slow and broken. It was not a real psalm, just a bad, out-of-tune sound. It sounded like someone was walking deep in the woods behind the house, whistling to pass the time. It made me feel uneasy. I thought it was just a hunter or a drunk person coming home late. I pulled my blanket up and tried to sleep. The next night, it came back. Same time, same bad sound. But this time, it was much closer. It was not deep in the woods anymore. It was right at the edge of my yard. I felt a sudden fear. I got out of bed. My feet hit the cold, noisy floor. I turned on the back porch light. The light showed only the first layer of snow on the ground and the dark trees. I took a strong flashlight and went outside. The cold air hit my face right away. I shined the light all over the yard. Nothing. No footprints in the fresh snow, no sign of anyone running away. As I stood there, the whistling stopped and went back into the dark woods. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. Maybe the sound just traveled strangely in the woods, but the next night, and the night after that, the sound came back at the same time. It was always at 1:17 a.m. I started checking my watch. It was like a clock, a scary, scheduled show. I knew then that someone was not just passing by. Someone was coming to my house. The happy Christmas feeling in town felt wrong to me. I started checking every lock and every window latch twice. The thought of someone doing this on purpose, knowing I was alone during the holidays, filled me with a deep, cold fear. A few days later, I drove to Trapper Creek and went to the police station. I talked to an older officer, a man I will call Deputy Ben. He had worked in this county for many years. When I told him about the whistling, the time, and the place, he looked serious and became very quiet. "Your grandfather," he said, his voice low and rough. "He used to call us about the same thing. He said someone was whistling around his house late at night. It always happened around the Christmas season. We never found anything. I thought he was just getting old, but now you hear it too." This news shocked me. This was not a new joke. It was something that had been happening for years. My grandfather, a man I thought was strong and brave, had lived with this same fear. Deputy Ben told me to keep the doors locked and stay inside after dark. I was already doing that, but the talk made me more afraid. I started putting chairs under the doorknobs. It felt like a useless thing to do against a danger I could not see. The whistling kept coming closer. One night, the sound was so loud it made the glass in the back window shake. It was behind the old shed. The person making the sound felt so close. I grabbed my shotgun. It was heavy and cold. I did not know how to use it well. I looked through the window blinds. The yard was bright from the moon shining on the snow, but there was no person, no shadow. I was too scared to go outside. The next night, the sound moved to the front of the house. I was sitting in the living room. A single lamp made long shadows. 3 long whistles came from the front porch, right next to the door. It was a sound of simple, bad intent. Then silence. The next night, the fear came inside. I woke up suddenly. The sound was not from outside. It was from under the house. It was coming from the crawl space, whistling up through the floor vents. It felt like a person was right there with me. It felt like a great wrong. I spent the rest of the night sitting on the couch. The shotgun was on my lap. I listened to the house sounds. The whistling stopped, but the cold fear stayed. The next day, I needed answers. I went up to the attic. The air was full of dust and the smell of old wood. I looked through boxes until I found a box that said, "Journals." Inside, my grandfather's neat writing told me the worst. He wrote about the whistling. He said it came back every Christmas season for more than 10 years. He never knew who it was, but he was sure it was someone watching the house, waiting. He wrote that he used to sit up with his rifle watching the door. He wrote that it only happened when he was alone after my grandmother died. I called Deputy Ben again. He came to the house. His face looked worried. He read the journals. He looked truly nervous. "Be careful, Jake," he warned. He looked at the dark woods outside the window. "Do not open that door for anyone you don't know." That night, Christmas Eve, I did not try to sleep. I sat on the couch. The shotgun was loaded. The house was quiet, except for the soft sound of Christmas songs from the radio I turned on for company. I waited. My heart beat fast and hard. At exactly 1:17 a.m., the whistling started. But this time, it did not come from the woods, or the porch, or the crawl space. It came from the hallway, inside the house. I froze. Every muscle in my body went stiff. The hallway light, which I had left on, was suddenly off. I could hear the sound moving slowly, step by step. The whistling got louder, closer. It was not a sound from the outside world anymore. It was a sound of someone taking over. I stood up. The shotgun was heavy and cold. I pointed it at the dark hallway. "Who is there?" I shouted. My voice was rough and scared. The darkness seemed to swallow the sound. The whistling stopped right away. I quickly found the light switch and turned it on. The bright light showed an empty hallway. Nothing. The floor was silent. The air was still. I checked every room in the house. My nerves were broken. There was no one. The next 2 nights, Christmas Day and the day after, were quiet. The quiet was worse than the whistling. It was a heavy, scary blanket. It felt like a promise that the sound would return. I was sick with fear. I could not eat or sleep. I was sure that this person had now turned their focus from my grandfather to me. On the 3rd night of quiet, I went to bed after midnight. I was so tired I could barely stand. At exactly 1:17 a.m., I woke up to a new sound. Not the whistling. Knocking. 3 slow, hard knocks, and they were coming from inside the house, from the back door, which led into the kitchen. Then I heard footsteps. The floorboards made noise under a person's weight. The hallway light, which I had left on again, went out. I stepped into the hallway.
The shotgun was ready. My breath stopped in my throat. At the end of the hall, near the kitchen, a person stood. They wore black clothes. They were a dark shape against the faint light from the kitchen window. Their face was pale. They stood perfectly still, watching me. "Do not move," I screamed. My finger pressed hard on the trigger. The person did not speak. They just turned their head a little, a slow, strange movement. Then they ran, not towards me, but towards the back door. I fired. The gun blast was very loud in the small space. A flash of orange light blinded me for a second. I heard a loud thud. Then the back door slammed open. I heard the quick crunch of boots on the snow outside. The person was gone, swallowed by the Christmas night.
The next morning, Deputy Ben came. His face was serious. He found the empty shotgun shell and a small dark spot on the kitchen floor. But the most scary thing was that the back door was not broken by the shot. It was simply unlocked. The person had not broken in, they had let themselves in. They had a key. I packed one bag that day. I did not look back. I drove straight to my parents' house. I never went back to Trapper Creek. My father sold the house a few months later. I moved to a big city. The noise of cars and people there is a comfort to me. I still do not know who that person was. I do not know why they came every holiday season, whistling their broken song, scaring the person who lived in that old house. But I know one thing. Christmas, which used to be a happy time, is now a cold, quiet wait. It always ends at 1:17 a.m. with the memory of a tune that was never quite right. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. This story is a testament to the horrors that can lurk beneath the surface. Tell us where you are watching from in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more tales from the archive.